Earthlings, this is Planet Mitch, and this is Wednesday, July 23rd. And surprisingly, this is episode number 1 of the Planet 5D podcast. For those of you who know me from the Digital Convergence podcast, and I hope each and every one of you are going to tune in, you'll recognize the beginning of that musical introduction as the intro that Carl was using for that Digital Convergence podcast. And I thought it was just a little appropriate to try to merge that old sound with some new sounds from Planet 5D. If you follow Planet 5D podcasts at all, I have done some in the past, and I've been doing some videos that I've called the Daily Planet 5D episodes, which I haven't done since April, so they're not really daily. But you'll recognize a little bit of the outro from that show that I've been using. And the last little tidbit was something that's an homage to my good friend Barry Anderson, who's going to be one of our co-hosts. And that's Barry with 2 S's. I'm sorry. There, I've blown it already. It's Anderson with 2 S's, not Barry with 2 S's. So
you're silent to my first name.
And we also have Pamela Ann Berry, and we'll be introducing each one of those guys here shortly. But that's when you hear extra voices, those are the other people besides just me. Barry Anderson is an old buddy of mine. Should I say old? You're not that old. I'm old. Barry corralled me about 3.5 years ago at NAB and grabbed me by the neck and shoulders, said, I got to talk to you. And we talked and talked and talked, and we've been good friends ever since. Barry is an award-winning, I'm going to read this from his bio, an award-winning independent filmmaker. His career started with live television video production, which I didn't know, and now includes several acclaimed short films, a television pilot, commercials, and a feature film. And I never finished explaining that last little tidbit of music was from the movie that Barry and I put together called Incident on Marmont Avenue, which was one of the very first Canon 5D Mark III shorts. Barry directed, and I stood around looking important.
You're good at that, Mitch.
What, did I look good at it? Or was I looking important, or did I fake everybody out?
Yes. I'm pretty sure we have a picture to prove it, too.
At least one. And I've forgotten completely. I've got to play this, Barry. I did show notes and still didn't quite put in all my cues. I have this special homage to Barry. Sorry, Pamela, I don't have one for you. But
Not yet, at least.
This is for Barry, okay?
I'm now worried.
Don't be worried.
Oh, Mr. Berry. Oh, Mr. Berry.
Mr. Berry. Mr. Berry. Mr. Berry. Mr. Berry. Mr. Berry. Mr. Berry.
At the end of, well, I shouldn't say at the end. The movie was starring a suddenly my tongue doesn't work, a child actress. And all throughout the whole filming, she was going, Mr. Berry. So I recorded several of the cast members recording that sound, so I thought that was kind of fun. Mr. Berry.
I will now have nightmares. Thank you for that, Mitch.
and of course, I have it right here recorded so I can play it anytime I want.
Mr. Berry. Oh, Mr. Berry.
Oh, man.
Mr. Berry.
Speaking of haunting. Oh, mercy. So, as you can guess, this is going to be fun and entertaining, right? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The other co-host that we've got is somebody that many of you may not recognize, but she's an up-and-comer in the world, and I just love having a female voice. Pamela Berry is, as she describes on 500px, a mom, a photographer, a video producer, a camera operator, an actress, always looking for better and to learn more. I want to set myself apart and continue doing what I love. Pamela,
Absolutely.
It's great to have you on board. I'm like I said, I've always had this feeling that the females weren't represented very well in the film world, so I'm going to turn things around, and you're going to help me do it.
That's fantastic. I always get excited when I'm on a film set and there's other women on set. It's empowering. And I've actually done all female crews, and we can be just as
dangerous.
Awesome. Actually, I'm going to say awesome. It's a lot of fun. I love it.
All right. So let's describe a little bit more about what each of you are so that our listeners can get a little flavor. Barry's the boring one, and Pamela's the live and active one, and Lord knows what the heck I am. Barry, let's start with you.
Man, you should have told me you were going to say that. I would have come up with something really clever to say right at that moment.
You got to be very
caught me off
quick.
guard.
Come on, you gotta loosen up and be quick.
No, I worry sometimes if I'm too quick, I'll say something I'll regret.
Yeah, I understand.
We've been taught that on film sets. Sometimes if it's early enough in the day, we don't say things that we shouldn't. But at the end of the day, then all things are off.
Yeah, there's no, all bets are off for that, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background. I love the story about how you started making films when you were 5 or something.
Oh. Yeah, well, that I'm assuming if there's filmmakers listening, it's not uncommon to other folk out there. But I grew up in Minnesota, which many people like to lovingly call flyover country, and this was prior to the days of internet and the beginning of VCR and home movies and whatnot. And so we had no video camera, nothing. And one day I woke up and you go through I want to be a fireman, I want to be I want to be president, I want to be this, I want to be that. And I woke up one day and said I want to be a director. And then I went up to my mom and said, "What's a director?" And my mom says, "I don't know. Where did you hear that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just for some reason wanted to." So I did some research. I said, "Yeah, it's the people who make movies and television. I want to do that." And so in Minnesota, we have great resources for learning how to make movies.
Massive filmmaking area, isn't it?
I spent weeks and weeks and weeks calling libraries around the country trying to get books that actually had information I could use in them to me. And then for a kid who didn't read, my mom was super impressed because suddenly I got books that are like 600 pages long with technical details. And she's like, "Well, what the heck's going on here?" So I think they thought I had a midlife crisis when I was like 10. But that's kind of how it all started, and it's kind of been going. It's been going on since then.
What do you
Nice.
What do you do for entertainment there in Minnesota?
Well, it depends on who you ask. If it's me, obviously I watch way too many movies. But
Do you
like to
have
say
movie theaters up there?
Yes, we do.
How can
we
you watch
have them
way too many movies?
in igloos. Well, I don't think so. But then you talk to non-movie people, and they're like, "Oh my God, you don't do anything but that." No, my favorite thing to do in Minnesota is to leave and go on a vacation. So
Hey, that's a perfect segue. I went on vacation recently. We were talking in the pre-show about temperature, and Pamela was complaining that it's a little warm in Salt Lake City.
Just a tad. Because I don't know if you knew, but I actually grew up in Alaska.
No.
So
Which
anything
part?
in the 90s. In North Pole, actually.
The North Pole.
nice.
Yeah, right outside Fairbanks is a town called North Pole.
Really?
I have my North Pole High Letterman's jacket.
Awesome.
I would do this from now on. I would say that I'm from the North Pole and don't explain it.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get this nice mysterious thing going, like, is she really from the North Pole? And then it would force us to look it up, and then we'd be like, well, some of us would find the town called North Pole, and they're like, well, you must be north of the Arctic Circle, so maybe she just considers that whole area. But that's pretty cool.
Facebook,
I might steal.
Facebook
I might steal that from you. I might start saying I'm from the North Pole, because who can verify that anyway?
People don't believe me. On my Facebook, it says I'm from North Pole, and people always thought that was a joke until they start talking to me and realize that I am indeed from the North Pole.
That's amazing. I have a great story about Alaska that I'll tell sometime. I've never been there. But speaking of heat, so how hot is it in Salt Lake City?
It's been 100 degrees more often than not in the last little bit.
Well, boo-hoo.
104 earlier this week.
For you guys, that's hot. The reason you said vacation earlier, and I'm going to clue in on that because I just want to tell the story. Because the show's all about me. We took a family vacation this year to. My kids had said they've never been to California, so we decided to play, let's go tour some of the vacation spots in California, one of them not being LA. So we started planning our tour, and to make a long story short, which is never true for me, I always make them longer than they have to be. We used frequent flyer miles, so we ended up flying into Las Vegas, and we flew out of LA, so we did go to LA, but that kind of ruined the whole story. Anyway, so we flew into Las Vegas on July 2nd. It was 115 in Las Vegas on July 2nd. We only planned to spend a short one day there, so my kids aren't all that thrilled about gambling or shows with naked women, so we decided to avoid Vegas and just use that as a stopover. And our next stop was Death Valley.
Oh, wow.
Now, anybody who's ever been to Death Valley has been probably in the spring or the fall or the winter and enjoyed the heck out of it. The day that we left Vegas, it was like 104 when we left Vegas in the morning. By the time we got to Death Valley, it was 130 degrees.
Oh, wow.
I have never, ever, ever obviously been so hot in my entire life as that day. And the record for Death Valley is 134. And it was miserable.
Wow.
I'd like to interject, though. It was a dry heat, so it wasn't really that bad.
Yes, it's very true. We as a family have been comparing, because we live in Missouri. For those of you who don't know, I'm in St. Louis, and it's humid here. Like yesterday, it was 95, and it's humid. And my kids walked out and said, "God, it's hot out here." And I said, "No, it's nothing like
130 degrees is hot no matter what."
Yeah, and it was really weird because I had been hoping that we could go out that first night and take some shots, because my kids have we've never gone anywhere where there's not city lights. We've always vacationed somewhere that's pretty bright. Well, I shouldn't say. Anyway, so it was cloudy when we were there. But this wind kicked up in the evening, and it's not only it's 130 outside, but there was a 10 to 20 mile an hour wind that just blew this hot air and dust and dirt right into your face. It was amazing.
Wow.
I was just, the car that we rented had a thermometer thing on it, and we kept, as we were driving from Vegas, we're like, it says 112. Oh, it's up to 115. And I'm like, that's about as hot as it's going to get. And then we broke 120. I'm taking pictures now of the thermometer in the car going, well, it might go down from here, so maybe I better take a picture. And we finally got it. The car showed 129 as the highest.
Wow.
Anyway, so from there, we spent one night, thankfully, in Las Vegas, in Death Valley. And then we went to Sequoia, and in the mountainous area around Sequoia, because we couldn't afford to stay in the park, it was still 105 in the hotel was 105, but when you got into the park, it was in the upper 80s, low 70s, or mid 80s, somewhere in there. And then we went to Yosemite, and when you got in the Yosemite Park, it was in the gorgeous mid 70s, but the hotel we stayed at was 105 down in the valley. And then for fun, we went to San Francisco, which was a high of 68. So it was like this really extremes, going from 130 to 68 in less than a week. It was really bizarre.
I love San Francisco. I'm going later this week.
Are you?
Yes.
We had a blast because I got the kids interested in the America's Cup race, which is happening there. So we went out on a tour boat and watched one of the races from the water. It was really cool.
Oh, fantastic.
So there's my summer vacation story. And so now when anybody says they're hot, I'm going to say, ha, you haven't seen hot. Oh, mercy. And that was a long story, wasn't it?
Of course not.
Of course it was. So, Pamela, tell us where you got your start in all of this craziness. And where did you and I first meet?
Oh my goodness. I got my start actually as an actress. I did a lot of theater and then musical theater, and I was recruited off. I was doing this show, and some director had spotted me and asked me to come and audition for his movie. And it was a big movie coming into town, and
Nudge,
of
nudge,
course,
wink, wink. Hey, come interview for my movie.
well, I go on set, and instead of being excited being there as an actress, I was so excited about seeing how the whole process worked. I ended up talking to the crew members, and I mean, I didn't even know who a grip was or a gaffer. I had no idea, but I just was so intrigued by this process that I eventually became a PA, a production assistant, and I worked on big sets. I worked on Electionist with Reese Witherspoon. I worked on some stuff with Olivia Newton-John, and I was just so excited about being on set that I was like hungry for more knowledge. And I eventually went to school. I became more involved in producing and camera work, and right now I do a lot of script supervising on big projects that come into town, on national commercials and Disney stuff. And it just was kind of like a journey into learning everything I could about being on a film set. And now I do a lot of script supervising. I tech edit a lot of books on editing, especially on Premiere Pro. I do a lot of photography, and lately I'm doing a lot of fashion photography for some local agencies here. So it's just been kind of evolved into everything, and I love it. I love being a part of every aspect on set. It gets me excited, and I love helping teach people to understand more what it's like to work on a set and to use their cameras. And yeah, so it all started because of acting.
Well, you've neglected, and Barry, I keep thinking of other things I want to talk about for you, because there are so many things that you do. But you haven't mentioned this guy, Rich. Some guy named Rich you work with?
Richard Harrington. I have been a personal assistant of his for about, I think we're coming on 4 years.
Has it really?
And yeah, and that's actually, I met you and him at the same time, in a way.
Yeah.
I was a media director for an HDSLR expo with the LA Film School. Was it 4 years ago? I think it was.
Yes. It's hard for me to believe, and it was called the Collision Conference, right?
I don't even remember. No.
Yes. Or was it the second one?
No.
Well, the first one was called the Collision Conference. Maybe it was the second one that I met you at, which would be 3 years ago.
So yeah, that's where I met you, and that's actually where I met Richard. And Richard flew in. He's out of DC, and he flies into LA. He doesn't give him any leeway for jet lag, and he was exhausted. He's teaching his classes, and he leaves his Nikon D3S. I still remember the camera because it's a beautiful camera. And he leaves it in the classroom, and he's at the airport. And so I call him up. I actually drive out to LAX and give him his camera back, and he was so floored that I would do that. And to me, I'm thinking, no, this is your baby. Of course I'm going to do whatever I can to get this camera back to you. And he was so grateful. He gave me a couple of his books he wrote, and he goes, "Are you going to NAB?" And I looked at him like, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, when it comes close, hit me up and I'll get you a pass." So the first thing I do when I get back to my place is I Google what NAB was, because I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And so I was excited, and NAB comes around close, and I send Richard an email, and he gets everything hooked up. I had just gone through a terrible divorce, and I was not on my feet, and I only had money to drive down to Vegas, and that's it. I didn't have money for food. I didn't have money for a place to stay. I didn't have gas money to get back, but I knew that I had to go down there, and I didn't know why.
Wow.
So I listened to my gut. I drove down to Vegas. I crashed on my best friend's couch. I packed peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I went to NAB. And I run into Richard, and Richard is flustered. He's overwhelmed, and I said, "What can I do to help?" And I've been working for him ever since.
Wow, what a great story. Very inspirational. I mean,
listen to your gut, and that's a small fraction. I mean, how I got out to LA for that expo, and just the whole, it's fascinating, and just listening to your gut and following what you love to do, and things will work out.
Well, it truly is an inspirational story, and it goes along with a lot of people ask me, well, how do I get into the business, or how do I do this or that, and do I need to go to film school? And those questions come up a lot, but people often aren't willing to risk things to make things happen. I mean, quite frankly, that collision conference that you're talking about, or even the second one, was a big risk for me, although I wasn't broke and driving out there to eat peanut butter sandwiches. Yours is a much better story. At the time, I had just started Planet 5D as a blog, and it was a hobby kind of thing for me. And I decided to go to that collision conference. I had never been to any kind of conference outside of my day job. At the time, I was a computer programmer. And if I had not gone to that collision conference, I would not be in the position I'm in today either. You have to, at some point, take some risks to step outside of your boundaries of where you normally are. And if you don't do that, then you're never going to really succeed. I think Barry's sort of proof of that as well, because he wasn't going to let me not talk to him at the NAB show 3 years ago. I mean, I remember thinking, this guy keeps sending me tweets or text messages or something. I mean, he just pestered the heck out of me. Barry, you still awake?
I'm still here.
I hear you snoring.
No, I'm not. No, you definitely noticed that if I was.
Yeah. But, I mean, that kind of inspirational story just is stuff that people need to hear, and they need to think about that as they're either changing careers or thinking about, getting out of school. You have to take some risks, and if you don't do that, you're probably just going to end up in a dead-end job.
Well, even recently...
No, go for it.
Oh, even recently, Adobe Max was in LA recently.
Yep.
And Richard sent me a link to be a teacher's assistant. And I disregarded it. I'm like, no, I don't have the money. I don't want to do it. But it was eating at me. Finally, I'm like, oh, okay. So I signed up to be a teacher's assistant, which still would cost me money, and I needed a place to stay. And they accepted me. I was the only non-Adobe employee, I believe, as a teacher's assistant. And I go out there, and of course, I'm having a good time. I'm learning, and I'm meeting some great people. Unfortunately, one of the instructors, his mom passed away. And they asked me to take over his classes. And so I became an instructor at Adobe Max, which changed everything. And then meeting with Peach Pit again. And because of that, I got so much work getting more books. And now I'm in talks with a book of my own. And all because I listened to that gut. And to this day, I'm still getting work that I'm doing here at home, all because I made that decision to listen to my gut feeling and go out there to Adobe Max.
It's awesome. Barry, what do you want to say?
Well, I was going to say that I'll use this as the G.I. Joe moment. So if you find yourself in a bad spot and you find someone flustered, make sure they actually have a job so they can help you. And secondly, if you get to be a teacher's assistant, make sure that the poison that you use is not traceable. And this will definitely help you on your career move. Just saying.
Oh,
Barry. But, one of the things that I think is so great about having both of you guys on this, you're both incredibly energetic, although Barry's not always just Mr. Outgoing on podcasts. I'll tease you about that periodically.
Well, no, if I was my normal self, then I would talk too much. So I try to keep it in check.
Loosen up, Barry. But, I mean, both of you are so incredibly busy. Barry is a guy that, and I forgot to mention this before, that you've got a book called the DSLR Filmmaker's Handbook, which has made you incredibly rich, right?
Yep. I'm on a small... I left Minnesota. I bought a small island next to Richard Branson. So
wow.
We have lunch together.
For those of you who...
everybody write a book. It's super lucrative.
I'm sorry to break in there. For those of you who don't know about the book, you can just simply go to planet5d.com/Barry, and that will take you right over to Amazon, and you can purchase the book and help fund Barry's college.
And Berry is Barry, just in case you think
Yes.
it might be Berry.
Right. And that's another excellent segue there, Barry. Way to go.
I'm doing my part.
Okay, for a few moments a couple of days ago when I was thinking about this show, I decided I was going to call it the Barry and Berry Show because it's Pamela Ann Berry and Barry Anderson, but that left me out in the cold, so I voted against that. I couldn't come up with a planet.
Let's have a new vote. Okay, everybody in favor of Barry and Berry, raise their hand. Everybody opposed? All right, the Berries have it. So we did some housekeeping here.
Welcome to the Barry and Berry Show. It was nice being involved.
We can arm wrestle for which Berry is first.
Oh,
The
My
team
guess
of
is you will win.
Barry, and Mitch.
Yeah, we're like a law firm now. No one's going to listen to this. We're scaring everybody away.
No, this is like a great interview. It's great. So tell us about the book quickly.
The book, my wife and I wrote it. It was I'd like to say it's a labor of love. It was more like a disdained hatred by the end of the book, just because it was the scope was bigger than we originally thought. We originally, kind of with the idea of writing some tips and tricks on how to use DSLR cameras, and it turned into, yes, we'll teach you about how to use DSLR cameras, but it got into a whole heap load of, other topics in general filmmaking, ranging from lighting to the history of lenses and whatnot. And it's a pretty dense, big, hefty book, and it's great now that it's done. But going through it was quite a long, laborious process. But what makes me happy is it has very good ratings on Amazon, and the people I meet that have read it said that it actually helps them. So it makes those long nights, painful memories, just that much easier to sleep with. But
And you're still married?
Yep, we're still married. We have not agreed to write a second book. We're hoping they don't contact us to say let's update the book.
Yeah, amen.
But I'm sure we would be stupid and say yes if they do call.
I will have to say, and you don't pay me to say this, and you are my friend, so there is that caveat. But I have read through quite a few of the HDSLR books, and yours is still the one that I recommend to everybody. It's the best on the market.
Thank you. That's nice of you to say.
And Pamela
Check's in
didn't.
the mail.
Yeah, right. Your check.
It's for 3 cents, so it's not that much.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. But see, did I get one of those? Oh, I don't think so.
You have to have a soundboard, man.
I do have a soundboard.
Oh, good. All right. We
See?
need someone there to operate the soundboard for you, because clearly you're missing your cues.
I am missing my cues. See, and I even have this one set up, which would have been really good for my check that's coming for 3 cents. But
Are we supposed to hear that, or do we just,
oh, you don't hear them, do you? Huh?
No.
I didn't
It's very
think about that.
because it seems like you're very excited about what you're sharing, but I hear nothing. I don't know if I'm supposed to be like a TV studio audience where now the applause sign comes up and I don't know why I'm clapping, but I'm supposed to.
Well, that means you didn't hear the introduction and you didn't hear the Mr. Barry thing either, did you?
No, that's why I just kind of have been winging it.
Well, why
I
didn't
don't
you
know
say
what's going on.
something? Well, see, I didn't even think about that in the setup.
It's all falling apart
hilarious.
here. Run, people, run.
No, don't say that, Barry. Well, dang, I didn't think about that part. Now there's a nagging issue in the back of my head. Oh well.
This is just extra entertaining. I love it.
You guys will have to listen to the show in order to hear all this great sound effects. And
I will do that.
yeah, right. So you guys sat there for a minute while I played the introduction, going, "I don't hear a damn thing," but he seems to be happy about it.
Yeah.
Are we still here?
Mitch, when you seem very happy, we're just like, well, good. He's happy about that. We didn't want to wreck it.
We didn't want to burst that bubble.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Go on with it.
It sounds very great in my head, let me tell you. Pamela, however, is also very involved in books right now, so let's talk a little bit about that.
I am tech editing. Well, I have been. Wow. Before the new updates to Premiere and Adobe came out, everybody was trying to get their book out and get it ready and get it to publishing. So I was bombarded with tech editing, the Classroom in the Book series, stuff on Premiere Pro, the visual quick start guides, all that, all on editing. And so that's what my life has been consumed in the last several months doing. So I'm the person behind the writers, making sure their books can make sense and are good and are readable. So that's what I've been doing.
So I don't have. I'm sorry.
The authors come to me and they're like, "Be nice, Pamela, please."
Yeah, when you and I have talked, you've been just constantly busy editing. See, I'm shortening words these days.
We like making up new words here on the show.
Yes, I'm.
Well, the grammar podcast is the subtitle. We'll teach you about cameras, lenses, filmmaking, and making up new words.
Love it.
On the Berry and Mitch show. Anyway, I'm not. I don't have any great links like I do for the Berry book set up for you, because you only get paid to edit. You don't actually get a cut of the book, do you?
No, I don't. I get a per page fee that I do. So.
But I keep mentioning these things not because I'm trying to blow smoke and make you feel really good. I want the two people out there in the listening audience to know a little bit more about you and to feel comfortable about you as we move forwards with this fantastic show, because that way they feel comfortable in knowing that you people know what you're talking about, that you're not just two people I picked up off the street.
No, I love being a tech editor. I love going in and really, because I do all the exercises in the book and I fix them if there is a lot of times.
You must be really thin. That was a really bad joke.
They're either on just a Mac or just a PC, and I actually have to make sure they work both on Macs and PCs, and or they forget that they have their settings set in a way where it's different from the default settings. And so I really go in depth and making sure all the exercises are correct for the readers. And I love it. I love being able to make sure that it's user friendly and that the readers will have the book knowing that it's going to make sense and they can follow it easier. And it's great. I love doing that.
I'm really thrilled to hear that, because I would not be that excited about spending that much time making sure that the author did things correctly. So I'm glad there are people like you who are excited about that.
And it's hilarious because the publishing company, when I said I love being a tech editor, they looked at me funny. And I said, no, I really do. For one, I get better at my craft. I get better at editing, because I do. I love being a video editor. And I love helping people understand how to edit and how to use the software properly and to understand it better so that they get better at what they do. For me, I thrive on that.
Awesome. We need people like you. And it's technically, like you say, it's a great way to learn things that you don't have experience with. So there's another good tip for you people out there, the two of you that are trying to learn and get into filmmaking. And maybe you're in a tiny little town in Minnesota somewhere. And so here's a great tip from Pamela to just go out and, become an editor of books so that you can learn how to be a filmmaker when you don't have a crew around to work with.
Well, and it's actually used beneficial. I just finished a big set recently, and they're doing a lot of stuff editing-wise that nobody else is doing. And to be the go-to person where they ask questions, they're like, Pamela, how do we do this? It feels great. It feels great knowing that people trust me to go to me with questions, and I'm able to help them out, especially on big sets. And that's awesome. I love it.
When you said big set, what do you mean?
Big set.
You mean a movie set?
$1 million.
So I was thinking books at the time I'm like a big set of books. Okay, sorry.
Big set, big film sets and movie sets and
cool.
Where usually I'm the scripty and they have the editor there like, hey Pamela, and they ask me questions and I'm a part of the whole process and it's just I love it.
You really need to tune down your passion a little bit. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's jump on to another short teaser. Barry, you've got a project that you've just been working on in a little town that nobody's ever heard of called Chernobyl.
Yes, we are in post right now working on our stuff, but we went over there for 5 days and we went to the old town Pripyat and hung around. We were able to secure access to areas that most people have never seen. I think we were only the third people since the accident to go to this little, I don't know what you'd call it. It's almost like a little campground where they had literally, 100 or so odd cabins with most of them painted with old Russian cartoon characters on it. And it was like this whole area where kids used to run around and play. It was now just this, kind of this nature preserve wonderland with kind of these slowly fading wood buildings. And it was just one of the most beautiful, serene places I've ever been. And we got some great images. We were using the Blackmagic Cinema camera. We had a whole bunch of people that sent us gear to be using. We worked with, let me see if I can remember all of them. But we had Red Giant Software. We were using their new product, let's see, what are all the things we use? So with Red Giant, we were syncing all of our audio with Pluralize. We were doing some of the color correcting there with Magic Bullet Looks, and then we were also using their new software called Bulletproof.
Oh, thank
we're
God.
Managing all of our DSLR footage.
I couldn't remember what that was called.
No, it's Bulletproof. It's actually super awesome.
Is it?
Especially with. Oh gosh, yeah.
We probably could talk about all of that on a separate show.
Oh yeah, we can.
I want to know more about that.
Once we launch it. But we had Small HD gave us a monitor we were using there. We were using the new wireless video stuff from Teradek, which was awesome. We had a whole bunch of Rode microphone stuff kind of going around, taking all these kind of, what we originally thought would be kind of just, almost eerily soundless areas, and it was just teeming with life and noise, and it was just really interesting kind of just being around and capturing all this. But we we had about six or seven people that sent us stuff and went over there, and it was great because we did all this research for is it safe to go, and we deemed that it was safe enough to go. And when they picked us up in Kiev and drove us down in their little truck, they had this award-winning documentary on Chernobyl that was about an hour and a half long. Just enough time to make you regret all of the decisions that you had previously made to this point and wanted to turn around and go home. But then it's like, we're here, and you're like, oh my God. And it was very interesting, especially when your tour guide would say, okay, now this is an area where don't leave the concrete. We're like, what do you mean don't leave the concrete? And he takes out his little thing and shows you the reading of radiation. You're like, can we get back in the car and go to a different area?
Wow.
Because this is kind of scary.
Yikes.
It goes from being just tourism to like, wait a minute now, let's weigh what's a pretty image versus I don't want to grow a third arm.
Well, so what is the purpose of the project?
We've always been wanting to go to Chernobyl. Just we thought it was going to be one of those places that there's been a lot of photography done over the last few years there. A lot of people have been going and taking photo tours, but we've seen very little to no video footage. And there keeps being talk of eventually them just shutting down. Actually, while we were planning it, they actually shut down one of their government agencies that ran the zone and switched to a new one. But they keep talking as the buildings become more and more decayed that eventually they're just going to kind of lock the keys and no one's going to be able to go. And we thought it was the right time to go. Well, the buildings were still somewhat structurally sound, and that we would, they've closed access to inside of buildings and whatnot. We were able to get special permission, so we were able to get into areas that most people still can't go to. So it was kind of one of those once in a lifetime opportunity. And I told the people that were our sponsors, I said, hey, if your gear can stand up here, then other people have nothing to complain about. Is it durable? Can it work? What's it going to be like? And we had just a fantastic time. And all the gear actually performed well. So we're cutting together kind of how we were using the different pieces of gear so people can see how we were using them and why they would want to actually buy it.
We'll be talking a little bit more about that in future episodes, but also on what website?
Planet5D.com.
Oh, good. I've never heard of that.
I haven't either.
So much for the Barry and Barry show.
We'll just call it Barry and Mitch.
Barry and Mitch.
Barry squared. Barry,
Yeah, there we go.
Barry squared.
I like that.
Oh, mercy. What else is going on, Pamela? Have you got anything coming up exciting?
Actually, I just finished the last 6 months of my life. I finished a video game called Tex Murphy. And
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Books, editing, video, making movies, video game?
Video game, yes, video game. It's a movie. It really is.
Oh, okay.
Tex Murphy used to be a really popular video game back in the 90s. I think one year it may have been the #1 PC game of the year. And a company bought it out and never did anything with it. So 15 years later, they still had a really strong core fan base, almost like a cult following. And they decided to raise up and organize a Kickstarter campaign. So with promises of being matched, they raised $625,000 on Kickstarter.
Oh, my stars.
And so it also was matched. So over $1 million+ later, we're shooting the next episode of this Tex Murphy video game. And what it is, it's a cinematic video game, kind of a choose your own ending, where it's all shot on green screen, live actors. We had people like Todd Bridges, Steve Valentine, who just, by the way, starred in the Disney movie Teen Beach movie.
Oh, there you go.
Just
That one
to
was
give
awesome,
people
by
more
the way.
reference.
Barry, you've seen that one?
Yeah, I got an advanced screening.
Did you?
I have his poster in my room.
Even June Lockhart was in it. It was
Really?
We had such great iconic actors, and another one was the original Soup Nazi from Seinfeld is in there.
Wow.
And
It's awesome.
we spent all our money on our actors, really, and there was only 4 of us crew members. And then we took our big backers who came on set and we put them to work. And for us, this was saving us money, and for them, it's a lifetime opportunity. I'm teaching people how to do slates. We're having them help move lights and things like that. And so it was to see these fans get so excited of this project that they've been waiting 14 years for, and almost tears. Like they were in some, oh my gosh, that's Tex Murphy. I can't believe on set. And they were so excited. And we finished it, and we're looking to have a launch date out in November.
Wow.
So it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited. Our first trailer just came out last week.
So we'll put that in the show notes.
That'd be great.
Because this episode will be on Planet 5D.
And we shot on the C100, the Canon C100, actually.
Cool. Worked well.
Are they
It
a
worked
sponsor?
really
Should
well.
we say good things or not about them?
We have 0 sponsors for this show right now. I was going to
Oh,
throw
so
in.
we can be. So tell us really, what was it like? Was it good, bad?
It was good. It worked out really well. I was surprised. I was like, C100, really? I want to, I was surprised we weren't shooting on something different, but it worked out honestly great. Really
Awesome.
well. Surprising. I loved it.
There were some sound effects I threw in there, so when you're listening to the show
Those
again.
are brilliant. Those are fabulous.
I actually have figured out how to get the sound effects fed into Skype, so don't worry.
I've figured out how to imagine them, and so it's a really good teaming.
Oh, this is perfect. And so what other things do you have coming up, Barry? Hint, hint. Hint, hint. There's something important.
Are you thinking about our seminar tour that we're going on here
Yes.
starting the end of September?
Yes, I am, as a matter of fact.
Since I went to Chernobyl, I decided I'd stay closer to home. So we picked 30 cities that we're going to go and share our knowledge of DSLRs, filmmaking, and some of the kind of tried and true techniques that you can use no matter what camera you're shooting with.
Awesome. I'm excited about that. I really am. I told the kids while we were on vacation that was my trial period for going on tour in the fall. If I could survive the 2-week vacation where we traveled to 7 different cities in 2 weeks, then I could survive the fall tour. and I made it.
Yeah, but you brought people that you loved as opposed to me. So that's going to be a different problem.
Well, when we're sharing that room together, we'll see how that goes.
I think the behind the scenes of the tour could really be the gold of the tour, in my opinion.
Cameras will be rolling, that's for sure.
3 awkward guys traveling the country trying to haul gear.
There is another guy. When you say 3 guys, just so everybody knows, Tom Starks is our tour manager, and he's not going to be presenting. He'll just be handling all the behind the scenes stuff. Thank goodness, because I don't know how to do any of it. And I think that's actually 31 cities last count, but you'll hear more about that on some website called Planet 5D as well. Now,
I'm starting to remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. But we aren't going to Salt Lake City, I'm afraid, Pam.
Oh. Salt Lake's got a wonderful photography and film community here.
Don't sound so disappointed.
Close-knit.
Yeah?
It's very
that's
positive. It's great.
Is that where you filmed this video games thing that you were just talking about?
Yeah, Tex Murphy.
Yeah.
We shot just a bit north in a town called Centerville. There was a studio that Tex Murphy, the guy who plays Tex Murphy, actually owns a video game software company and has a studio that we shot a huge green screen on.
I was not Googling, so I don't have any background information on Tex Murphy. I'm sorry. It's all new to me. Even though I lived through the 90s, I don't remember that game. Sorry. So I'll have to learn about that.
So you're saying he didn't donate to your Kickstarter campaign, is what he's saying.
I'm hearing that very clearly.
Yep. Very suspicious.
Sorry. But we will include a link to the trailer in the show notes on planet5d.com. And I keep forgetting to mention, by the way, Barry, I know you'll be fascinated by this part of the discussion. One of the stops on our vacation, see, I keep going back to my vacation.
Not a vacation.
It was a very, very stressful trip, actually. But we stopped in a ghost town in Nevada called Rhyolite, which reminded me very much while we were there of Chernobyl.
What was the radiation reading?
It was 0, as far as I know. But, I mean, the fact that it's fascinating. Just the other day, I looked up a photo that shows the town. I live in a town here, a subsection of St. Louis area called Brentwood. And I think there's like 8,500 people that live here. And during the heyday in the late 1800s, early 1900s, this town of Rhyolite had about the same population. And now it's completely down to about 5 or 6 buildings that are still standing. And it's really eerie to think, and I was thinking about this when you were talking about Chernobyl, how fast buildings actually fall down once people don't live in them. It's kind of strange.
It's very strange.
And the one building that is still completely intact was the brothel, which I found fascinating.
So the question I have is, why do bars and brothels kind of withstand when things like schools immediately crumble?
I don't know.
I don't know if they were just the craftsmen were that much more careful when they knew what it was used for, or if those were really the last things abandoned. I haven't decided yet, but I'm guessing it's one of those two.
And that's it's funny because the brothel and the jail were within about 100 yards of each other, and in Rhyolite, and both of the buildings, the jail still has a bit of a roof and most of the walls, and the brothel is still standing completely, but all the other buildings are gone. So you hit that one right on the head. Jails.
I'm leaving that alone. I'm leaving it alone.
Okay,
Stop.
Good.
Smart.
I don't have any sound effects for that one.
Next week. Tune in next week. It's a teaser.
I do have sound effects, but I'm deciding not to play them. All right, so we're going to slowly wrap up this show. Or quickly, I don't know.
Well, speaking of next week, we have a guest.
Oh, I see. We did. we talked about that in the pre-show, and I thought, well, we've already covered that.
This is why it's called the Barry and Berry Show.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that you don't fall apart on us, Mitch.
Oh, thank goodness somebody's here to rescue me. Next week, we have a gentleman by the name of Patrick Kisney, who is a co-owner, I believe. Barry, you tried to correct me once on this. He is a co-owner, right? Of Ditto Gear?
Well, I could be wrong. I thought he was their marketing manager. I thought he's freelance. I didn't think he was an actual owner, but we can ask him next week.
Yeah.
But I know that he does all the marketing for Ditto Gear.
And you've probably seen him if you read Planet 5D diligently, like I know the two of you who are listening do.
Always.
Because Patrick has written several blog posts for us. And Barry's appeared on Planet 5D as well. And hopefully someday we'll get Pamela on there as a guest
I'd
author.
love to.
Maybe she'll talk about that Kickstarter thing that you were just talking about, some video game or something.
Yeah.
What's his
Well,
name?
speaking of Kickstarter, Patrick just launched a Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah. That's right. And you found that on Google. We'll be talking about his new movie project next week and more. So that's sort of another good segue, I think. My intent with this show is to be like the Digital Convergence podcast for any of you who were listening to that show. Because we want to talk about not only gear and the art of filmmaking, but we want to talk about the people behind what's going on. And I think oftentimes people find the people find the people buy the people for the people. Anyway, what goes on behind the scenes and how things get made and the personalities behind the films are as fascinating as necessarily the gear. So we're going to cover not only gear and news, but we'll be covering people. And so, with that, I think that we will declare this introductory show to the Planet 5D podcast somewhat closed. Do you guys have anything special that you want?
Now is when you need to cue the screaming, cheering throngs of people that have been listening.
Okay, I'll play the crowd applause.
There we go. But it's got to be not just the sad, pathetic little clapping. It's got to be like whooping clapping.
That was the sound. Here's a crowd cheer. They're screaming and yelling.
In my head, it's perfect. So hopefully you match that.
It is perfect.
Okay.
Agreed.
And of course, I got a kiss from Pam. And Barry says, "Oh no."
Oh no!
I got all sorts of stuff queued up, and you guys just can't hear it. That's so sad.
It's becoming kind of,
I think it's hilarious.
I'm so glad I can hear it at least. Oh, mercy. So, tune in next week. I was trying to get you guys to say if you have anything exciting coming up or what websites you want to promote, because everybody's tuned out now, so, go ahead and promote.
Have at it now. Nope, talked about the tour and teased him I'm doing the Chernobyl stuff, so that those are the good ones for me.
But you do have a website, don't you?
Well, you can visit my website, barryanderson.com.
Twitter?
Mofo, MOPHO _Barry.
Facebook?
So
I should follow you, apparently.
Yes.
You should. Well, it depends.
He doesn't
you don't
tweet
know if you
much.
like me yet. It's better to wait a few weeks and see if you like me than it is to follow me right away and then have to unfriend me or unfollow me.
Pamela, what have you got?
Well, I have my website is filmstudiospa.com, and my Twitter is Pamela Ann Berry.
And you are very active on Twitter because you and I chat there periodically and encourage each other.
Have you been working out?
I have not. I did consider my vacation a huge workout because we did a lot of climbing and walking, and I was exhausted.
So for those of you who don't know, Mitch and I, for a little bit there, we were making sure we were working out every day on Twitter.
I did work out yesterday and Monday, but not today because I was preparing for this fantastic show. And what did you do?
I've been going to a chiropractor 3 times a
Oh,
week.
no.
I hurt my back.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that.
Yes. I was T-boned on the freeway. So
Oh, my gosh.
I hurt my back. Terrible.
so good.
Anyways, that's...
That's just...
There's
that's-
a downer for the end of the show.
Yeah.
downer. I was like, I don't want to end the show on a downer.
More on Pamela's chiropractor next week. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for listening. If you have any show feedback, send it to Pamela. No, there is a contact page on Planet 5D, or if you could just go to planet5d.com/contact, you can send me an email, and I will promise to read it. I may not respond because I'm so far behind on responding to emails, it's obscene. But I do want to know what you guys have to think, the two of you that are listening. And if you have any questions for our incredible gang of experts, let us know. And tune in again next week when we not only tease each other about the Berry and Berry show, but we have our special guest Patrick Kisney on as well. So thanks for being here, Pam. And I'm gonna fix that. For some reason, I've got Pam in my head, and I'm gonna go to Pamela. Barry, I don't know what to call you.
Call me Doofus. It's fine.
Thanks for being here, Barry.
Thanks, Mitch.
And here comes the outro music, which you guys can't
Get ready
hear.
to dance, everybody.
That's not it. Gosh,
I was dancing.
where'd it go? I've got this fantastic soundboard software, and I don't have it.
Maybe not so fantastic now that you've tried it.
So I was air dancing to nothing.
Kind of like
Oh, there it
air
is.
guitaring. It's
Yeah.
the new thing.
Exactly.
It's
Air
okay.
dancing. Thanks, guys. Outro music starts now.